Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of Crowding the Plate, powered by Branded Sports. We have a ton to get to today because, frankly, the world of baseball is on fire. As always, on this baseball journey, I am your host, KMS, and my partner in crime, live from Titletown.
What's up, guys? I'm excited to be back. We're back. I'm up here in Massachusetts right now, but it was just a huge week. That's kind of what we were ready for it, but sometimes when that news starts rolling and you don't realize how exciting it's going to be until it all hits. So it was a good week. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, today it was rapid fire. So you're right. Let's just get right into it. So last week we talked a lot about the two big elephants in the room, and obviously one of the big elephants in Machado has left and gone to San Diego, but the other big elephant in the room has gotten bigger than ever, Mr. Bryce Harper. Dubs, what is the deal?
So, I've been saying for a couple weeks now that I think the Giants will get Harper. I backed off on that a little bit just because the
Uh-oh.
Dodgers have now jumped in, and I think because I think the Giants for me at that time was more Harper doesn't want to go to Philly,
Yep.
so the next best team is the Giants for him. But now that the Dodgers are in the mix, I think he more just wants to go somewhere other than Philly. I think even more so he wants to go to LA, and I think with the Dodgers in the mix now, that changes everything.
So are you almost fully set that it is more than just more likely that he'll be in the West Coast? Do you think he will absolutely it's going to be the Bryce Coast?
I think there's almost 0% chance he's not in California with Manny Machado.
I absolutely agree. I think especially after, I mean, we'll talk about Nolan Arenado later. Machado now in that division. I mean, I don't see why the Dodgers shouldn't make this jump.
Yeah, and I mean there's been reports left and right, especially today from we can start with John Morsey's reports where he talked about Harper's interest in LA, how he's
Hmm.
always had it. Its proximity to Vegas obviously makes a lot of sense. And then he talked about him being a Lakers fan. I don't think that matters, but sure,
No.
throw it in there.
Okay.
And then but then you talk about the normal stuff that any player looks for. So all the endorsements that are out in LA and California, like you're not going to get the same type of endorsements in Philly. As much as Philly will love you, they ain't going to pay the same way as California does.
No, I mean, hell, what they announced some stuff about Space Jam 2. I guarantee he signs in LA, LeBron will find a role for him in Space Jam 2.
Yeah, and it's just Bryce Harper is born to be a star. And as nice as Philly can be sometimes, how many stars are ever in Philadelphia? Like even the great Philadelphia teams, that's just what they are. They're teams usually. It's
Yeah,
very
there's
rare that they have this big all star that's going to do anything super special. And I, I don't know. I think their inability to ever get big stars like that says a lot about the Phillies as well. So I think Bryce Harper's definitely looking toward the West Coast a lot more.
And I honestly think, I mean, everybody for weeks have been like, this is Scott Boras. This is Scott Boras. He's going to get his guy the deal he wants. He's just dragging his feet. I think it's beyond Scott Boras now. I honestly do believe from the beginning he did not want to play in Philly. I mean, you're right. He wants to be in LA. He is a star. But I also think there's other things to that. I don't think he wants to play the Nationals in Washington that many times a year. And again, I mean, I live close to Philadelphia. I'm 45 minutes out. If I had the damn choice to make the same amount of money or even maybe a little bit less and play in Philadelphia or play in LA, see ya.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, John Heyman reported today. They haven't been confirmed at all, but he said that there may be another team with an over $300 million contract. If there's a team in California willing to pay him over $300 million, you better believe he's going to take that seriously. He's not gonna
Absolutely.
he's gonna look at that Phillies money, and if the Phillies are getting matched or anywhere close to it, and it's in the ballpark of what Harper kind of wants, I think he gets a win-win by going to California, and unfortunately, the Phillies are going to be the victims of that whole situation. But
Well,
that's
so
unfortunately for them, not for us.
for us, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal, but we will get to that in a little bit. So everybody in the beginning was saying it's going to be a short deal from LA. They're jumping in, but it's going to be a short 2, maybe 3 year deal. I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised now if they're in full play for a 10-year, 8 year deal. I mean, if you look at their books after the 2022 season, they only have $8 million on their books.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, the guy that they were supposedly really looking forward to in the future, looking to sign that long-term deal, was Arenado. And we'll talk about his deal in depth a little bit later. But I mean, him re-signing today with Colorado really shuts down those. I mean, the Dodgers could obviously have their pick at anyone when the Trouts
Yep.
start coming around and stuff like that. But in reality, I mean, if Arenado was one of their guys that they were looking at, then there's no reason that they shouldn't have the same type of intensity with Harper now, knowing their circumstances. And like you said, when the money clears up, then you're looking at Harper here, and you're talking about what Philly was talking about with going after a Trout when that money's
Yep.
cleared up. You can have Trout and Harper on the books. So looking ahead for the Dodgers, and with Puig and Kemp gone and an open outfield for him, I mean, it's such a perfect situation for Harper. It seems hard for him to not strongly consider, if not entirely lean toward LA at this point.
So I mean, I think you're pretty much set that you think he's going to LA. I mean, I'm about 94% that he's going
Yeah,
to end up in LA. But the question now is, when is it going to? March 1st is this Friday, man. It's Wednesday tomorrow when this podcast is launching. Are we seeing him sign before the weekend?
I'm thinking it's got to be this week. It makes the most sense to do it this week, and not just to get in there for spring training. Like, obviously he needs to do that anyways.
Yep.
But on top of it, all these teams are jumping back in the mix. The price is only going to keep going up with all the competition for him. It only makes sense that he would just kind of get that deal done as soon as possible before he lingers on again to where the money starts fading. And it will once we get closer and closer to the season, because like, these teams are going to have to sign other guys in place of him if they're not going to get Harper.
And I mean, we always talk about Harper being a superstar, Harper being a brand, but he's also a ball player. And I would think a ball player like Harper would be like, all right, you know what? I want to get in camp. I want to go join this team who I've never played with, and I want to get some damn at bats under my belt. I want to get some games under my belt before I'm just thrown out there. I mean, he could get 20 at bats probably in spring and be ready to go for opening day. But I would think the player that he is, he would want to join that team sooner rather than later at this point.
Yeah, and it's more than just the baseball, because let's be honest. I mean, the guy's not going to be out of shape. He's
No.
not going to be not baseball ready. Like, he's always working on his swing. He's going to be fine come regular season. But it's little things as just a person, as Harper goes, like, he's going to want to be settled in whatever city he's in.
Yep.
He's not going to want to go in the middle of April when the season's about to start and he's got to find a new house, he's got his wife. Like, they want to get settled a little bit, and they can't drag it on for that much longer if they want to be comfortable going into the regular season.
I mean, that was the big thing of why Yankee fans were saying that Stanton was struggling when he was last year, because he wasn't acclimated to New York and he was shopping for an apartment, and you don't want to be doing that anytime close to the season. Now, that's a bit of some bullshit, if I'm going to say. I mean, just take the bat off your shoulders and hit the ball, Stanton. You're making how much money? But it's still, I mean, just little tiny things, like you said, that you don't want to be dealing with when you're already getting acclimated to a new city. Just get it done now.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand the Boris factor.
Yep.
And Harper's still going to be asking for an absurd amount of money. It's not like this is all it's not like he's going to take less money to do all this. If the money's so different and Philly's still offering far more than everyone else, then I think that's the 1% chance that Philly still gets Harper. But I think at this point, I mean, we might as well get into a little Philly talk too. But at this point, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's been so many different reports where Philly's on the verge of signing with Harper. There's a deal basically done, or there's a deal on the table. If they've all fallen apart at this point and none of them have come to fruition, there is clearly a disconnect. Whether that be Harper not wanting to go to Philly, Philly not wanting to pay Harper's price, whatever it may be, this has been far too long of a discussion and negotiation for them to be on the same page. It just doesn't make sense to me.
The most hated man in Philadelphia right now is John Heyman. It's like he has a Cowboys jersey walking through the streets with the double middle finger walking down Broad Street. Every time I'm on Twitter, there are just Philly fans bashing him because, you know what, maybe he's anybody who says Harper might not be going to Philly, you're apparently the worst person in the world. I mean, again, we talk about CEO Joe how many times on this show. I talked to him yesterday. He's like, "Yeah, I really think it's going to get done tomorrow. It's absolutely going to get done tomorrow." I said, "Joe, you've been saying this since Christmas. Like,
Yeah.
like calm down."
It's very much a situation where Harper is leaving Philly at the altar. They have been
Yes.
engaged for a very long time. Everything has been in the works. They've been planning. They've been setting the numbers right. They've been getting the financials. They've been making everyone happy and settled in Philly. And he's just going to ditch at the ceremony and go
It,
straight to LA.
is this the meanest thing that a player has ever done to a city, and especially a player who's never even played in that city?
Yeah, absolutely. In recent history, I can't think of anyone in the last 15 years that has done something like this. And it's what's worse too is you can think of players that have done this to an organization like
Hmm.
Stanton leaving Miami, the way that
Yep.
stuff like that. But not,
T.O.
I mean,
leaving Philly.
a Philly is very much, they're diehards there. They're not going to take this very well. It's
No.
not like they're going to accept it with just like a humble pie or anything like that. Like this is going to be disastrous, and I love it.
I already see Philly fans who have ordered Harper Philly jerseys already off the black market, who are going to be burning them in the streets. The second he signs with LA, we're going to be seeing those videos online.
I can't wait. I mean, it's gonna be actually that will be the greatest video on the internet. Is
And
someone burning a jersey that never existed.
you know it's going to happen.
I know everyone. They're gonna be demanding their money back, and everyone's just gonna be laughing like, "I can't believe you bought it. I can't believe you thought Harper was actually going to Philadelphia."
I mean, I don't know, man. Again, I don't think he wants to play at a market like that because you said he's a star. I don't think he wants to play that many games in Washington. I don't. He doesn't want to play in that division because he is beloved there. He goes there, his legacy is tainted in Washington, and I don't care what anybody says. CEO Joe will fight me on this tooth and nail. Mike Trout, again, I don't think he's ever going to go to Philly, but in their wildest dreams, he is because he's a Philly boy, even though he's from South Jersey. He's an Eagles fan. If Bryce Harper signs with Philly and he's batting 250, and all these Philly fans, because what they do is talk, and they're talking Mike Trout this, Mike Trout that. If Trout, even in LA, wins another MVP and Bryce Harper bats 250, he's going to be hearing about Mike Trout constantly.
Yeah, it'll be endless, and it's just, I mean, Philly's a tough place to play. It's not easy, but I'll tell you what, LA is an easy place to play,
Mm-hmm.
and whether he picks the Dodgers or the Giants, in the last decade, the Dodgers and Giants have been a better baseball team than the Phillies as well. Like
Agreed.
I understand their current situation and Philly's outlook, but the Dodgers have just gone to back-to-back World Series. The Giants are perennial contenders. I understand the skepticism there with Bochy leaving, but I mean, if there's an upper management group and a manager who, even on his last year, can get a guy into a team, then Bochy and the Giants are the right organization to do that. So I wouldn't count them out. I mean, they'd have to come with by far the most money if they want to get him
Absolutely.
at this point. But I mean, the Dodgers and Giants both sound like, if you look at it objectively, the Dodgers and Giants are both better fits for Harper right now outside of the rosters.
I think if the Giants are gonna jump in and swoop in and steal him, quote unquote, yes, they're gonna have to throw the most amount of money, and I think they're even gonna have to say, all right, you know what, Harper, when Bochy's gone, you can name whatever manager you want. You hand pick the manager.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter to them.
Done.
Buster Posey will be the player manager.
Player manager. I'm done. All right, well, Philly, as I think we've already decided, he's not going to sign there. So, is there a Harper domino effect in Philly that might affect some of these other big free agent names out there? Maybe a Kimbrel, Dallas Keuchel. Do
Yeah,
they?
I mean, I think those are the two guys that you have to look at. Um, Not even necessarily just for Philly, although they'll definitely be players for both of them, I would assume, if they lose out on Harper.
Hmm.
But anywhere, really, I mean, Keuchel's money is dropping by the day. Kimbrel's situation's different because he's saying he's willing to sit out, which is an asinine idea. But if
Absolutely.
but if he is and he's not budging on money, then he's just not going to be signed, and that even more so puts an emphasis on Keuchel's market, whereas he's probably been losing money over the whole offseason here. But if someone is in need of a starter and you can get him at a cheap price now, like Keuchel's going to be a hot commodity all of a sudden when all the dust settles on the Harper news.
I think Keuchel's rooting for Harper to go to LA because I think that opens up the door of quote unquote a little bit more of that stupid money coming his way from Philly. I mean, especially like we say with the Philly fans being so into it and so diehard, but now a desperate diehard fan base in Philly. And who was told that they were going to spend stupid money, and if they lose out with Machado and lose out on Harper, they're still going to expect. Yes, they got JT Realmuto, but that was a trade. They're still going to expect some stupid money to be spent, and I think they could sign both of those guys.
Yeah, in theory, and like I said, it all depends on Kimbrel's price, but I think Keuchel is gonna go before the season. Absolutely, I think he can certainly help any rotation, whether it be back end, middle of the rotation, depending on the team. He's gonna help your team. And if the Phillies want to win, that's the right type of guy to have in the locker room too. Harper aside.
Come to New York. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later. But I'm all on the Keuchel train to New York.
Fair enough.
Chew.
I would love to see him in Boston too. But...
Chew. All right, easy. All right. There have been a ton of other signings and extensions besides just Machado and Harper still being out there. We talked a ton about Machado last week. I don't think we need to touch on anything with him. I think it's just time to play ball for him.
Yeah, I think the only news that has come out from Machado actually being in San Diego now is that he will play third. Tatis will play short, whenever it is that Tatis gets brought up. And I mean, that's probably the smart move because it's one of those things where why even have the chance of messing with Tatis when he comes up? And if Machado's willing to play third, he's comfortable there. He's going to be the best third baseman defensively in the league. So it seems like a no-brainer, but it definitely could have been a hairy situation.
Yeah.
Like I always think back to Boston when they moved Bogarts over to third base to have JD Drew at short. It's like sometimes there's a reason that you shouldn't be messing with players, especially young players that are coming up that are so talented. So I think they're definitely doing the right thing by doing that.
And it's great for Machado end because he kept saying, I'm a shortstop. I want to play shortstop. I think that was, a money ploy because he knew he'd get more money signing as a shortstop. But like you and I said last week, and you mentioned just before, he is the number one third baseman in the league. He is not the best shortstop in the league.
Yeah. And even if he's up there for shortstops, it's very much a debate opposed to Machado being the best third baseman in the league.
Yes.
And, and that wins you brownie points, too. You're going to get to a team, and he could have either been a diva that wanted to play short still or a guy that comes in and says, hey, I know we all like this Tatis guy. I know that the best way for us to get along is for me to play my role on the team. And if his role on the team is third base, then it's a good step for him to be making that decision this quickly.
Hey, and I love it too because he was getting beat down with the Johnny Hustle stuff. So if this is just going to show that he's going to be a team player and he's going to play where he's needed to help the ball club win, not only in the future but now, I think that's a step in the right direction. Of quote unquote saving some face of his reputation that was tainted a tiny bit with the quotes last season.
Yeah, I mean, clearly not tainted enough for him to not get $300 million. But
no.
But regardless, it's a good sentiment on both sides for them to be in agreement on something that is in reality a big deal on where you're going to play in the field. So for them to be on agreement on it week one, I think that's a good sign for the long marriage to come.
Yeah, no, I love it. A guy that did not get $300 million, but a guy that you loved. I mean, we talked about my under the radar guy last week who re-signed in Moose, but Marwin Gonzalez to the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I'm pissed because I really do think Marwin Gonzalez can be good. Like I think he can. Like he's not going to be anything exceptional, but he can be such a valuable role player, and he just kind of brings a winning attitude. He's been on a championship team. Like he has so much value as just an overall player that to have him be in Cincinnati, it just seems like such a waste. I mean, it's gonna be like through his 30-year-old season, like it's just what a waste.
Unfortunately, I could see him just fading away a little bit. But I think, I mean, crowding the plate had it right. When we put him in Cleveland, I mean, I guess the Indians weren't listening. I think they should start listening.
I
He would
still
have been perfect.
still think it would have been perfect. It's I really am upset that he went there because since I mean I forget that the Reds are a baseball team sometimes. Like, could any team really matter less than the Reds?
Does anyone know that Yasiel Puig is there now?
I didn't, not off the top of my head at least. I
Right.
think if I reached back, I could have remembered it. But God, I mean, it's what a boring state team.
Everything.
Cincinnati, the Reds. What's a red?
It's not a black. I don't know. It's
So I'm not happy.
and they spent a lot of money on bats. I don't think their issue last year was, scoring runs so much. I was doing some research, the more Reds research I ever thought I would ever do, just which was about 6 minutes. But I mean, they didn't have that much of an issue scoring runs last year. They needed to spend their money on pitching. So, bringing in a Puig and then a Mora, it still doesn't make sense. And I mean, Cleveland, if your organization starts listening to us, I mean, we dropped Gonzalez going to Cleveland, and I think it was the next night Lindor went down.
Yeah, and I mean they've had an okay offseason, but it's just a guy like that would have been so valuable, and
It would have been great.
what a waste on the Reds. And you're right, the Reds need so much pitching. I don't know if I could name one of their starters off the top of my head. I mean, the Reds are really just that insignificant, and I mean, I guess good for them on getting a decent player, but Gonzalez serves no purpose on a team like the Reds. Gonzalez's value is escalated on a playoff team, and that's where his value is the highest, and the Reds are not that.
The only thing I ever think of when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds is Ken Griffey Jr. And how long ago was that?
Yeah, and it was for a cup of coffee. I mean, I think of Bronson Arroyo, which really says a lot about the Reds.
Whoever thinks about Bronson Arroyo is
A-Rod.
you. Yeah, true. What about your other guy? Hanley Ramirez has signed. He has landed.
Yeah, it was only a minor league deal,
Yeah.
but I am hyped about it. I mean, it was a really weird situation when he left Boston last year. He had the FBI looking into him for some drug sting that really nothing ever came of, so I assume he wasn't involved whatsoever. I mean, it was really weird reporting when he left. But regardless, I thought it was even odd that he was without a team all season, and he still was playing. He was playing in different random independent leagues, and he was hitting bombs. The videos were great, and it still just never made sense that he wasn't back in the league. And I think by the midway point of the season, he could easily be up in the majors again, because he really is that talented when he's
He
on.
is. He always scared me.
Yeah, when he's on and he's in the middle of the lineup, like, he can get you some power just out of nowhere sometimes.
I mean, the deal was it's a minor league deal with a chance to make the major league club out of camp too, was it not?
Yeah, and I think so. Even if he doesn't do that, I think he'll absolutely be up there by the midpoint of the season. I mean, he brings value to the team in a hell of a clubhouse guy. I mean, there are very few people that were loved as much as Hanley in his time in Boston, and that's in a clubhouse that has a lot of guys that are very likable. So he leaves an impression kind of anywhere he goes, and I think I'm just glad to see him back.
I think that'll be a storyline that you and I will be following all season long here at Cutting the Plate.
He could quietly have a massive impact that you just wouldn't have seen coming. But I mean, there's no reason to think that he couldn't. He was playing all right last year. It was just one of those things where we had Mitch Moreland, and Mitch Moreland was hot as a pistol in the first half of the season. So it was really a tough break for all the FBI investigation stuff to come out at a time that they were looking to possibly move on from Hanley. And I think it was just everything came to a head. But like I said, it's great to have him back in baseball.
I could see if you and I have been talking about maybe doing a one-on-one type of fantasy team, I could just see you sneakily taking him and somehow he hurting me in the long run down the season.
If you get some bench players, he's on there. 100%.
Boom. All right, well, your guy to my guy, Aaron Hicks. I know you have some thoughts on him, but just to run it down, Aaron Hicks signed a 7-year, $70 million extension with the New York Yankees. He has been the center fielder for the past couple years. It breaks down to a $2 million signing bonus. 19 he makes 6 million. 2020 to 2023 he makes 10.5. 2024 to 25 9.5, and then in 2026 it's either 12.5 or a $1 million buyout for the club. Now, before you rip me and rip the Yankees and rip Hicks and rip anything that has to do with the Bronx, I mean, it's not a ton of money. It's not a $300 million deal. I feel like he has found his way in New York. It might not be batting 300 because let me look. He did all right. He batted 248 last year with 480 at bats, which is the most at bats in his career. But he's a heck of a center fielder. I was listening to MLB or on Sirius XM. They had him rated as the number 4 overall center fielder in baseball. Eduardo Perez. Thank you. He had a WAR of 4.9 last season. There was only 3 free agents this year that had a WAR over 4. WAR is a big stat now in baseball. So I mean, they're not going after Harper. They needed, Ellsbury's Ellsbury. He's, has a headache and he's sitting at home on the couch. I mean, it's not a killer deal. I think it's a no-brainer. He's performed. The fans like him. I mean, he's come up clutch in big games. I mean, I don't mind it. I like the deal. I want him here. 7 years is a long time, but there is that buyout after 2026, which seems like it's a billion years away. But all right, go.
Yeah.
Go.
So, first of all, do the Yankees know that you can give out deals less than 6 years? I mean, for the love of God, they marry everyone. Like, there is no one that they're like, hey, let's do a 1-year prove-it deal. No one. Aaron Hicks would be the guy to give a 1-year deal to, by the way.
I'm not hating that idea.
Aaron Hicks, for the first time in his career last season, played over 125 games. For the first time in his career, I mean, you talked about his plate appearances, but I mean, he's always hurt. Before last season, he had only played over 100 games once back in his first season with the Yankees. He struck out over 100 times last season. Talked about his batting average.
He walked 90 times. He walked 90 times.
Okay, well, he had 27 home runs, which is obviously a good season. He has never had over 15 home runs prior to that. And last year was his 28-year-old season. And you guys are looking to pay him $12 million when he's, what, 35, 36? Like, this guy is not to sign him for that long term, and a guy with just no certainty in health and production. And I read an article today that his defensive value last season, as great as his WAR was, his defensive value was down from what it usually is in his career. So if he's diminishing defensively, he's inconsistent at best offensively. Ouch. To give this guy a 7-year deal at 29 years old is outrageous to me, for no matter what the money is, no matter the opt-outs. It just doesn't make any sense especially with a team with a good outfield. It doesn't make any sense to me to not make him prove that he deserves such a big deal. It doesn't make any sense.
All right, I will give you this. I agree with that. I don't agree with all of it, but I agree with the prove it deal. You're right. The Yankees never date around. They never say, you know what? Let's go to the movies. Let's have some popcorn, maybe some dinner, and we'll figure things out. They are, I like you, right to the altar. Like this, we're all in. And I do agree. Huh?
They're getting hitched left and right.
Yeah, the opposite of what Harper is doing with Philadelphia. But I don't know. Again, I don't hate it. I like it. I don't love it. All right? I would love a prove it deal. That I would love. But to keep him on the team, he's a clubhouse guy like we always talk about. I mean, it's not the worst deal they've ever signed. It's not Ellsbury. I mean, and hey, he hit 27 home runs last year. I'm not saying he's on the juice, but hey, welcome to the Bronx.
Very well could be on the juice too. That was my second argument was, you're gonna tell me he's gonna do that all of a sudden in his year 28 season after coming off an injury that he was out the whole second half of 2017. He only played 80-something games that year, so the production had to come out of somewhere, and I don't think it was his talent based on his history, to be quite honest. And it's crazy to me that people were comparing him to Gardner for you guys. I think Gardner's
Yeah.
a much exceptional. Like I think he's a way better player, and I hate Gardner. That bald-headed fuck. He's the worst.
There
But
is no
he's
you take that fucking back.
but he is absolutely a better baseball player than Aaron Hicks. Like it doesn't make any sense to me how people are framing this as Aaron Hicks is the steal over a guy like Gardner. It doesn't.
And what did Gardner get? He got a 1-year prove-it deal.
Yeah, and he's a guy that proved it already prior to that deal. So the whole thing is very suspect to me, and I think you guys will be very much regretting this in only
All right.
like 3 years time.
All right. All right. Let's move on before we'll talk Yanks Sox in a little bit, but there's obviously a huge signing that broke today, and thankfully we've been getting lucky with these signings and extensions throwing down, the days that we record. So,
Thank God we do the night before.
right, I love it. Nolan Arenado, nothing fully official yet, I don't think, but it seems to be imminent that he's signing a 8-year, $256 million extension to stay in purple, to stay in Colorado, which should make his manager Bud Black, who also signed an extension, very happy.
Yeah. That was. I'll get to Bud Black in a second because I do think signing those guys in the same week there is a really good decision. From what I've seen, it's 826 or 8260,
Okay.
and that's an average annual value of 32.5, which would be Harper's 10 for $325 million contract. Average annual at least.
So is that the
And I
highest
think
AAV?
that's the highest AAV for any position player. I think
Okay.
it might be. I think Kershaw might be higher. But regardless, it's a great signing for Colorado.
It
I mean,
is.
they don't have a ton of stars ever coming through there. Like Trevor Story, I like, but he's clearly doesn't have the same star power as a guy like Arenado. And especially if I mean, a lot of the Arenado news about LA kind of being linked to him came out today after the deal.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're hearing whispers about their division rivals and the Dodgers coming in and trying to take Arenado from them, and just seeing how free agency has gone the past couple seasons, I don't blame them at all for making this extension. I don't blame Arenado. If he's comfortable in Colorado, then that's a great extension for him. I mean, you're not going to get nobody gets more money. So
And not only LA, I mean, there's been more than just whispers that the Yankees were very, very interested in Arenado and probably would have thrown some quote unquote stupid money at him. So if they see both powerhouses, one in their division in LA and one in New York, I mean, they see both those guys coming and they have the chance to lock him up now. I mean, it's great to see in these quote unquote smaller market teams now. I mean, Machado going to San Diego, Arenado's now staying in Colorado. I do love it. I mean, I like to see these smaller market teams. I mean, Colorado was fun to watch last year. I don't mind when they're good. I like when they're good.
yeah, and I mean when they got hitters that can mash like Arenado and Story and anyone else that might be interested in going there in the next couple of years, Colorado's a great place to watch home runs. I mean the ball flies there, and back to Bud Black too. Just signing him alongside Arenado, it at the time Bud Black extension was kind of like whatever news, but then when you see Arenado re-signing here, and you see the whole thing kind of coming together for Colorado, one, like you said, it's great to see for a small market, and two, it's just good business. I mean, getting those two guys together where I don't know the ins and outs of their relationship, but clearly they have a good relationship on some level if they're willing to make this commitment to both of them. And if they do have a good relationship and the team is committing to both of them, then that's a great way to just build a foundation for a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And on a side note, going back to Harper for 2 seconds, hitting dingers in Colorado might be another reason he wants to sign out west.
That whole division really has a lot of parks that are gonna either look awesome when he hits a home run at him or just be favorable for him when it comes to hitting. And I mean, we already covered it, but he's gonna be in the West Coast and he's gonna be playing in that division. And these fields are going to be seeing a lot of home runs with him, Arenado, and Machado in that division in the future.
I'm just gonna say I want Harper dingers in McCovey Cove. But so with this deal that Arenado signed today, obviously he resets the bar now for those type of players. So, the Astros guys we talked about, they're kind of spread out pretty well with the guys coming up. They may have to pick between like a Springer and a Correa, but I mean, who do you see this setting the bar for? Like somebody like a Mookie?
Yeah, I mean it's a little different for every guy for the most part. But a guy like Mookie, obviously, if he's looking to re-sign, which the Sox have always said that they do want to re-sign him, obviously. It's one
I
of the
don't see him
best.
going anywhere else, to be honest.
But
He's
but doing it a year earlier, like Colorado did, I think that's going to be the way to go. And I think if he's able to get that type of money on an extension opposed to free agency, I
mm-hmm.
think that's definitely going to set the bar for a guy like Mookie Betts. And then you look at other guys like Trout's obviously coming up for free agency. He's not going to do that extension with the Angels,
No.
but he's going to be looking at guys like Arenado and obviously Machado and Harper and seeing what they get. And he's, you know, he's notoriously not a greedy guy, but when you're the best player in the league, you know that you're the best player in the league. Everyone else knows you're the best player in the league. You get best player in the league money. Period.
End of story. And you've been playing in Anaheim for how long? I mean, I don't mind the Angels, but it's beautiful weather out there. But you're playing with the little brother of the the other big California teams.
Yeah, which I mean, maybe he'll just go to the Dodgers with Harper. Who knows?
Or he'll come to the Bronx.
I doubt that.
Hey, you never know.
Well, you just signed Hicks for 7 years, so there's really no room for him anymore.
He can play. Move Hicks to left. It's fine. Get there.
All right. I have a good question for you.
Okay.
How does it feel to already have one loss to the Red Sox in 2019?
What? I couldn't hear you. You cut out there. Come on, it's spring training. It
is spring training, but with that win by the Red Sox, the Aaron Judge curse is still alive for myself. And he may not have played in that game. It didn't matter. That curse is alive and well until the Yankees find a way to beat the Red Sox after just embarrassing himself at Fenway. And
I'm gonna spread the news all over your fucking grave as soon as the Yankees win the first regular season game against the fucking Red Sox.
Yeah, you sounded real confident there.
I feel confident.
Aside from them winning that game, the Red Sox, they had a pretty standard week, to be perfectly honest. Not much happened. Some sad news, unfortunately, with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Longtime reporter at the Boston Globe, Nick Cafardo. I've been reading him forever. My dad read him forever. He's one of those guys that not only in just Boston, but across the MLB was heralded as just a great reporter and a great guy for the media and great to fans and great to all his coworkers. And it was tough to see him. I mean, if you didn't hear, he passed away from a heart attack in spring training in Fort Myers covering the Red Sox. So it was a little solemn news, but it was tough to see him go. He was really a legend when it came to reporting around the entire league, not just Boston.
Yeah, no, me being a Yanks fan, I know Cafardo well. I have read his stuff. I'm a big Christopher Mad Dog Russo fan, and him and Cafardo were close, and he would get him on the show a lot, and he was always a great guest. And there's nothing better than a good writer who can also talk baseball on a radio show, and he could do that, and you could tell how much he loved it. And I've always heard about him is he was a writer that the players could trust, and that's just so big.
Yeah, and not only players, I mean, the fans trusted him too. He's especially in Boston media, but even across baseball media. I give baseball writers, especially the older ones, a ton of shit. I think they're crazy. I think they die on hills that aren't worth dying on. I think they're insane people. But Cafardo was a guy that I never wavered from reading him, from listening to what he was saying. I mean, his takes were always great, always relatable to fans, and always fair to the team. So he was one of those rare guys, especially in baseball, where in the media, just everybody loved him.
Yeah.
But on from some bad news to some good news, I want to talk about Eduardo Rodriguez a little bit because he's been the hot topic around Red Sox spring training.
You wrote a good blog on him last week.
Yeah. So, I mean, aside from just what he's doing mechanically, he's added in a new slider. He's really working with guys like Pedro and Sale to get a lot better. On top of all of it, he's been a hot commodity as one of our next big guys for a couple of years now. And he's going into his 27-year-old season. And if he can stay healthy, he's gone on some tears in his career. And when he's on, I mean, he's not just a good middle of the rotation guy for the Red Sox. He could be a 1 or 2 guy on any team when he's really going. And if he's healthy and he can be going all season, then you're looking at a Red Sox rotation that is 5 deep at times. If not, definitely 4 deep with him, Porcello, and obviously Sale and Price at the top of the rotation. And then if you have Eovaldi filling that out, I mean, that is a scary, scary starting 5 if you're any other team looking at the Red Sox who just won the World Series.
Yeah, no, it scares the shit out of me. I mean, I'm waiting for Porcello to turn back into a pumpkin, but the rest of that rotation definitely scares the shit out of me for sure.
Yeah, so I'm definitely excited about him. And then a little fun news out of the Red Sox camp. If you can tell, not a lot happened at Red Sox camp recently. We haven't been signing anyone.
You're already the champs.
Yeah, Dombrowski said he's done signing people for the bullpen, so they're set. You know, I'm iffy on that right now, but I trust a lot of the guys that are in that bullpen still. So with that, we have some fun news where the players were asked if they were in the best shape of their life. This is a question that comes up every spring training with every team. Players, media alike, all saying best shape of their life. He looks great. He's hitting the ball square. Every player on the Red Sox came out this week and said, nah, we're in not great shape. We've had barely a month to party, celebrate the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 2 months of spring training to get in shape. We're out of shape. We're fat. We're enjoying life, and we'll get back to it when we need to get back to it. And I love that. 1, honesty, and 2, mentality. I mean, they understand where they stand. They understand they're a good team. They understand they have plenty of time to get into game shape.
Why do you want to be in the best shape as a player and as a team on February 26th?
Yeah, it serves you no use, and I mean, you'll be gassed by the end of May if you're in great shape right now. So it's one of those things where it's such a routine question and routine statement at spring training, and for the players to kind of go out there and attack it a little bit and have some fun with it, it was just, like I said, this Red Sox team just warms my heart. I get a smile every time I read about it, and I can't see anything but greatness again out of this season. So that's all I got for the Sox this week.
Yeah, and I think I said to you last year, or this Sox team, I mean, even as a Yanks fan, they're hard to hate. They remind me so much of some of my favorite 90s Yankees teams, but that makes me hate them even more. And it's just so frustrating. So, fuck you and fuck them. Stay fat and stay out of shape all season long.
With Alex Cora around? No shot.
Never happen. I want to see just no pictures on the wall next year, or just pictures of fat baseball players. All right, to my team, the 27-time world champion New York Yankees. Paxton had his debut this week. Pitched 2 innings, no hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts, but he had 2 walks. I mean, I thought it was a solid outing. Looked good. The ball looked good coming out of his hand. Again, like you just said, I mean, I don't think pitchers are in the best shape of their life right now. They're not throwing as hard as they're going to be later in the season. The only thing that scares me is the command a little bit. I mean, 2 walks in 2 innings. Don't like to see that. But, again, it's very early. It's his debut with the Yanks. He's got a little bit of the jitters. I'm not concerned at all. I think he's going to be a nice piece in the rotation, a rotation where we saw Sevy sign his extension, and a rotation that I would love to have Dallas Keuchel added to place on the back end.
Yeah, and as much as I'm in love with the fact that the Red Sox beat the Yankees in preseason, and I do think the Yankees have a great rotation. You know, I'm in love with the Sox one, but it's hard to say the Yankees is in a good rotation. Obviously, it's extremely solid, and you know, taking much out of any starts right now, especially on. I wouldn't take much stock into them at all.
No,
although if you are going to take stock into them, Paxton's outing is a good sign.
So with the Yankees rotation, obviously you have Sevy at the top, Tanaka, Paxton. I mean, you have a great rotation, and CeCe on the back end on the last year of his career. So you know these guys are going to be pitching their balls off for him, and the guys are going to be playing their asses off for him. But Cashman, if you're listening, I know you are. If Dallas Keuchel's number keeps dropping, he already said he will shave the beard to come to the Bronx. Get him and throw him on the back end of this rotation, and we are World Series bound.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say to that is I think Keuchel's power comes from his beard. So you guys are running a risk from that, but it would be a good pickup.
I mean, can you imagine one day you're facing J Happ and then the next day you're facing Keuchel? Thank you.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but it's kind of like Brian Wilson with and without the beard.
yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Speaking of a former Yankee, I don't know if you heard about this. Andy Pettitte signed with the Yanks to be a quote unquote assistant, special advisor to the GM. He's one of my favorite Yanks of all time when he wore his hat down real low. I mean, you couldn't see his eyes. He was a stud. Another one of those guys that, was on PEDs but came out and admitted it and said he was sorry, and it kind of floated away. But his boy Jeter asked him to come down to Miami and join the Marlins, and he turned his ass down and signed with the Yanks. So I mean, loyalty, man. I mean, you're either loyal to your boys or you're loyal to your old team. So I mean, who knows? We don't know the money aspect. We don't know anything else. But
I was gonna say because I think if the money was right, it's gonna be pretty hard for Andy Pettitte to turn down an offer to go hang out with Jeter in Miami.
yeah, no.
But obviously there was clearly a disconnect, or he just chose the Yankees over Jeter, which I don't blame him for that either. Obviously, if you're gonna work in an organization, the Yankees are a much better organization long term to work in, and it's a nothing job. I mean, it's the same title that David Ortiz has with us. I mean, he just kind of is around the team, and that's his job, and that's all. I mean, if you have guys like that around your team, you can't. I mean, that's great. That's great
Yeah,
for your roster.
it's a job like him and Clemens had when they were down in Houston, and they only had to show up on the days they were working, didn't have to travel with the team.
Yeah,
Remember that?
exactly.
That was that was the job I wanted.
Yeah, go on vacation during road trips.
That was fucking great. So we talked about the extensions of Sevy and Hicks, and now they're talking about Betances being the next guy up for an extension. So be on the lookout for that. I wouldn't hate that. He throws nothing but gas. But something I wanted to talk to you about that I know you're going to have a take on. Troy Tulowitzki home run in his at bat yesterday against his former team, and he celebrated like he had won an ALCS game.
Yeah, so I have a question for you. Does that worry you at all? Because I do think, one, I think it was a funny video. I think just seeing, especially in the spring training uniform, seeing a guy like Tulowitzki, who was in contention for league MVP at one point and just such a prominent name in baseball for a while. I mean, to see that type of excitement, you could take it as a good or a bad, but I thought it was very odd to see that out of a veteran like him in the first game of spring training.
I guess, I mean, you could look at it that it was a little over the top, that it was absolutely funny, or you could look at it as, he's a guy who, he struggled up there with injuries. He's facing his former team, and you almost saw it set up. Like, it was one of those baseball moments where you're like, all right, he's going to hit a home run. And you just saw it coming. So, I mean, could that be the peak? God, I hope not, because I've already made a bet with you that I think he's going to play over 50 games for the Yanks this year. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a fun, in the moment type thing. He's going against his former team. He popped one, and maybe the moment got the best of him for a second.
I think what made it the most funny is really kind of taking a step back and thinking about it. This is one of the first games in spring training. Tulowitzki is yelling at everyone on Toronto, and it's probably no one that he's ever played with before. They don't have their major league team out there. No one that's going to be on their roster is out there playing in that game, and Tulo is screaming at those poor kids just trying to get a job.
Somebody asked me today, they said, do you think this is going to come back and haunt Tulo in the regular season, as in they're going to get the Jays are going to be headhunting and they're going to hit him in the first? I'm like, come on, nobody's even going to remember it by
nobody on the roster even saw it. Nobody on the Jays active roster saw it, and it's like I said, it was just a funny video to see, especially a veteran like Tulo just getting so amped at all these poor little minor leaguers just trying to earn a contract.
If you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure Dubs will push it out again from Crowding the Plate on Twitter.
For sure.
All right. All right, you go. Hold on.
Yeah. And then my other question for you this week: position pitching. MLB accounts, cut 4, all of them have been loving it. No one's done it in a spring training game yet, but it's been a ton of live BP, a ton of fun stuff on the side, bunch of position players trying out their best pitches, their knuckleballs, everything. My question to you: what position player do you most want to see on the mound this season in a real game?
I mean, the answer to any question for me in anything with baseball right now is Vlad Jr., but we're going to be talking about him in a little bit. I mean, I hate to say this because this obviously means the Yanks would be losing big time, but I'm going to pick a Yankee, and I would love to see Aaron Judge just throwing darts. You imagine his friend. Actually, he's not even the tallest Yankee. I don't know if you know it. Betances is actually taller than him, so imagine him coming at you, but just, the teeth, that gap on top of the mound looking in, the crowd would go absolutely nuts. There would probably be about 17 people at Yankee Stadium at that point anyway, but just seeing that 99 on the mound, Aaron Judge's goofy ass up on the mound, I mean, I think Aaron Judge would be top 5 for me for sure. I'd have to think about it. I'm sure there's some better answers. I mean, again, Vlad, number 1, and 1A would be Judge.
Yeah. So I had a couple different guys that I really thought about for this question, but then I thought about it harder, and then Cut 4 put out a clip of the one and only Pablo Sandoval. He was throwing off the mound in BP. I don't know how many years he has left. I can't believe someone actually will still pay him to play baseball, even though the Red Sox are technically still paying him.
The Panda!
But we're paying Panda to not play baseball, which I think is the smarter move if you're going to pay Panda.
Well, that's like Tulowitzki. The Jays paid him to hit the home run against them yesterday, so that was kind of funny.
But seeing a guy like Pablo Sandoval on the mound, I mean, he's the next best thing. I mean, there's some older players, obviously, that would be hysterical, but one of his final seasons, see Pablo Sandoval trying to throw over the hump that is his gut would be unbelievable.
All right, I think you win this one. Actually, I didn't even think about Panda, and then it's like a bigger Bartolo Colon struggling on the mound though.
Yeah, who has zero technique and actually doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and didn't use steroids. He's just that fast.
He's just you fucking win this one. All right, along with our Vladdy, get him to the majors campaign that we're going to be running this year. We're going to be getting a Panda to the pitching mound campaign.
Yep. It's already been, like I said, there was already a clip of him doing it in BP. I need it to matter. I want it to count.
Just like you want that to count. We want Vlad in the major. So, did you see his debut in spring?
Loved it.
Fire.
I just love it. Just on top of just how great it is to watch him hit the ball, to just watch him in the batter's box in general, to just see him get so excited while playing the game is what made his dad so great and what's going to make him even better. Like, he's on top of all the talent to just have that type of emotion in the game is just so exciting, and it just infuriates me that Toronto doesn't want him in the majors yet.
And every interview that you hear with, either the manager of the Blue Jays or anybody that is familiar with him and the team, they say his presence in the batter's box and his IQ of baseball and of the strike zone is second to none in the majors already. They say his most comfortable place on this planet is the batter's box and is the diamond of a baseball field. But yet he's not major league ready. What? Because they haven't decided that he is yet? It makes no sense to me.
And not only that, like, he's obviously major league ready. But even if he was kind of like borderline, like, you're not sure if he's major league ready, I'll tell you right now, he's Blue Jays ready. He may not be like, if you have concerns about him, he may not be ready for a team like Houston or the Red Sox or the Yankees. But I'll tell you what, he can definitely compete on the Blue Jays roster.
Who's competing for what? 4th place in the division because the O's don't want 4th place?
Yeah, I mean, he should definitely not be competing for a roster spot. He should be competing for the 3-hole or the 4-hole in the lineup. Like, that's outrageous to me, but seeing him out on the field in spring training, I'll have to do for now because it's electric.
He's a dude everyone in baseball wants to see. And that is why everyone on Twitter wants to win our Vlad Jr. jersey that I have right here. It came in the mail today. It is Dubs. I don't think I want to give it away.
I know. I'm actually real pissed we did this whole contest now that it's here because I want it hanging up. It should be enshrined. I want him to sign it someday when we come within 3 states of him. Like I need,
Look at this.
I need that. Like the jersey's so nice, but unfortunately we had to give it away because we already committed.
I guess we have to. So for that, Dubs and I want to say thank you to everyone who followed us on our Twitter page, CTP Pod on Twitter. I'm sure we'll be running more and more contests as the season goes along. Probably more of Yankees, Red Sox, but overall, you don't know. We're going to be run contest after contest. So this was tough. I want everyone to win it, and like I said, I I hope that we can call my Twitter handle. It's not going to happen, but Dubs, who is our winner? Drum roll.
Yeah. So first off, I do want to say it was our first week on Twitter, and it was. I mean, we got such great support, and it was awesome to see a variety of different baseball fans because this is what this podcast is. It's not just Red Sox, Yankees.
Absolutely.
It's everyone, and just seeing all the support, especially up in Toronto. I would have never expected we were able to find you guys, and we did. And with that, our winner, a Toronto fan, Steve Deshawn. I don't know if I said that right. His Twitter handle's at Foggy's Pal.
It's a great Twitter handle, by the way.
I mean, it is, and if we're not going to be able to have that beautiful jersey, at least I want it in a fan's hand. So it's great to see Toronto getting in the mix and kind of following us and supporting us. And
absolutely,
congrats at Foggy's Pal.
So Foggy's Pal, if you could send us a tweet to the Crowding the Plate account, as well as send us a DM so we can send you your beautiful blue Vladdy Jr. jersey so you are ready for opening day. Even though he may not be there, you will be there with your Vladdy Jr. jersey.
Absolutely.
So Dubs, I think we said it all.
Yeah. I mean, I think we nailed it again.
I mean, do we do anything else? No. So great episode of Crowding the Plate. It was a pleasure to be speaking with you again, my friend. Crowding the Plate is powered by Branded Sports at thebrandedsports.com. Dubs, tell the people where they can find this podcast.
Yeah, so we've already been on Apple, but now we've moved to basically everywhere that podcasts are found. We can be found on Apple still, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and then the video version of the podcast will be on YouTube this week. The first episode we're putting out like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be awesome. Go follow us, Crowding the Plate on YouTube. We'll have that, some clips from every episode. So we're everywhere right now. We just want to keep growing, and we want you guys to grow with us. So thanks for all the support, and go find us on any of those platforms.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, rate, let us know what you want to hear about. Like Dub said, this, if you've been listening, now this is 3 episodes in, it's not just a Sox, Yanks podcast. Actually, it's kind of far from that. This is a baseball podcast, and whether you are a baseball historian or you're just getting into baseball, we will have a little bit of something for everybody.
Yep. And it was like I said, good episode by us. Congrats. Pat myself on the back.
Congrats to us. Congrats to Brandon Sports. And congrats to Steve again for winning the Vladdy Jr. jersey. So, again, thank you, everybody, for listening to us. We will be back next Wednesday. This is KMS.
This is Dubs.
For Crowding the Plate. We're out.
Have a good one, guys.